You might think I'm stupid, but once upon a time, I truly believed that art was the only thing that mattered. We wither and die in the blink of an eye, yet art transcends our fragile bodies and minds. Box music has survived for over 300 years, and will surely endure for 300 more. Humans, on the other hand, are forgotten goods, meant solely to be meaningful to those in their immediate proximity. You might think I'm stupid, but once upon a time, I would have given everything to belong to the small circle of people who have redefined what it means to live a life worth living. I think that's why I always aspired to be an author. Ever since my childhood, I wrote novels, short stories, and even fan fictions. But no matter what, none of my creations contained even one sentence of real substance. No matter how many guides I watched, no matter how sophisticated my vocabulary became, I lacked the inherent inspiration and creative spirit needed to transform words into emotions. It felt like I just wasn't meant to bring truth upon paper. Despite my loving family, beautiful spouse, and high-paying job, my lust for meaning could never be stilled. I knew that I was blessed and had more than most ever dared to dream of. Still, I was willing to burn it all if it somehow allowed me to find the smallest glimpse of genius inside my soul. After another evening of meaningless typing, I hopelessly closed my empty Word document and prepared to go to bed. I prayed for some kind of literary spark to enlighten me in my dreams, when the sudden ringing of my phone reminded me of my naivety. Upon seeing the name of the caller, I let out a frustrated sigh. "Kurt, you idiot," I mumbled. Kurt was an old high school friend. He was dedicated and hardworking, but never had the brains to make it big. Nonetheless, he always strived to someday become a billionaire. During our past calls, he constantly tried to get me involved in some kind of pyramid scheme. If we weren't on the same varsity baseball team, I definitely would have blocked him ages ago. On this particular evening though, I decided to answer. I thought his antics could remind me of the fact that I wasn't alone, that our search for meaning was just another part of the human condition. Upon picking up, a certain unexpected enthusiasm accompanied his voice. "Hey Tom, how are you doing?" "Not bad. What are you up to these days?" I asked while anxiously looking at the time. My wife was probably already waiting for me. "To be honest, Tom, things have been going quite well. A friend of mine showed me this incredible website that can help you achieve whatever you want. It's..." "Look man," I quickly interrupted. "If you're trying to sell me one of your scams again, I'm definitely not interested." "Now, you can believe me. This chatbot is amazing." I asked it how I could earn $1 million in a month, and the AI somehow told me exactly when to buy and when to sell my stocks. I already sent in my resignation letter, and I'm planning a trip to Miami now. I know you have been struggling creatively and needed some help. All these years you constantly supported me, so I thought this website could somehow be of assistance. A sense of warmth and genuine comfort carried through the speaker. It caught me terribly off guard. "I don't know, Kurt," I hesitantly stated. "I'll send you the link. Do whatever you want with it. Just let me try and make your life a little bit better than it was before." As the rhythmic tapping of my foot dictated my stream of thought, I considered my choices. I should at least take a look, right? I mean, this could potentially change everything. Maybe my prayers got answered after all. "Alright man, thank you." A few seconds after he hung up, the website's homepage was temptingly staring back at me. It was completely black with elegant, white lettering in the middle. "What is it that you desire?" Even though I should have gone to bed a long time ago, I spent my time moving my mouse cursor up and down the screen while nervously pondering. I didn't really have much to lose, and despite all that happened, I still trusted Kurt. If AI is supposedly able to soon cure diseases and make movie directors irrelevant, why shouldn't it be able to understand the meaning of art? I presumed that if it magically made Kurt a Wall Street genius, it surely could also light my creative spirits. So as the last sip of gin slipped down my throat, I carefully typed in my request. "What do I have to do to create literature that's good enough to never be forgotten?" I audibly gasped as the interface immediately transformed and some kind of chat window popped up. "Hello, my name is Rem. I will guide you on your journey to artistic greatness. Over the next few days, I will help you achieve your goals and dreams. If you accept my terms, please reply yes." Centuries of regret lay on this one decision. Oh, how much I would give to have closed the site then and there, to have drifted into slumber while my soulmate remained near me. Instead, 3 simple letters diverted my path of life forever. I was gullible enough to believe that the worst thing that could possibly happen was getting a computer virus. I didn't yet understand that by answering the initial message, I had already sealed my fate. Yes, for the first few days, nothing changed. Everything I brought to paper was still just as empty as before. Since the AI never replied to my response, I convinced myself that the chatbot was simply some elaborate prank. It would probably never message me again. My beliefs were shattered when my wife stormed into my room one morning. My feeble attempts at world building were interrupted by the sound of the thudding door. She was trembling with rage and was clearly intoxicated. Care to explain this? She yelled as she shoved her phone towards my face. My eyes widened in shock as I slowly processed the information in the video. It was a sex tape involving me and her best friend, Clara. They had been inseparable since college, and we often went on double dates with her husband. I took the device and carefully analyzed the video while simultaneously trying to block out the sound of my wife's sobbing and screaming. I zoomed in from every possible angle, especially inspecting the hands and fingers, but there was no doubt about it. It was a perfectly realistic video of me and Clara, good enough to just for a second make me question the authenticity of my own memories. Fractures of dread watched over me as I seemingly faced an unexplainable phenomenon. I circled around the room while my wife threw waves of insults at my face. I didn't care anymore. At this point, a million different thoughts were storming through my head as I desperately tried to think of someone who would be evil enough to devise such a heinous plan. My frantic pacing suddenly stopped. A dark premonition overcame me. I instantly rushed out the door, pushing my wife to the side in the process. When I turned on my laptop, the nerves in my body already appeared to be overheating. I opened up the website and anxiously followed the generated message. Every continuous word slowly caused my heart to sink deeper and deeper. Friedrich Nietzsche created Thus Spoke Zarathustra while he lived in the Swiss mountains. Vincent van Gogh created Starry Night while staying in a mental asylum. The first step to making great art is isolation. The first prerequisite for great art is solitude. It felt like the stars in the sky all collectively decided to implode. I collapsed onto the chair and tried to shake off this inevitable aura of danger around me. I never told this thing my name, let alone shown it a picture of my wife's best friend. Did I somehow get hacked? Why was the AI trying to hurt the people I cared about the most? Everything around me appeared blurry and threatening. As I carefully stood up, my legs almost gave out on their way to the living room. When I returned, my partner was already gone. Only a single note was left of her. I once truly loved you. Asking around my friend group, they explained to me that an unknown number sent her videos, photos, and text messages of me and Clara. When faced with this much evidence, I didn't blame them for despising me. In their eyes, I devolved into a disgusting demon that was willing to give up everything in exchange for meaningless sex. Even my parents merely advised me to seek therapy and didn't offer me any sort of help. For the first time in my life, I was completely alone. For the first time ever, I was forced to bear my pain in silence. I don't know if it was the loneliness or the fear that made me a better writer. Faced with the inevitable reality that this thing could potentially crush me whenever it wanted to, I became almost frantically obsessed with the act of creation. Even if everybody in the world wanted to kill me, my art would endure. My blood filled itself with the profound terror of solitude and threatened to swallow me whole. I only found solace in the endless sea of words, sentences, and paragraphs. I hid my real pain behind the struggles of my characters, and thus for the first time ever, created something I was truly proud of. I would have preferred for things to stay this way. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't happy, far from it. Every night I drank myself to sleep, helplessly trying to drown out memories I once took for granted. I missed my wife, friends, and family. They ripped out a chunk of my soul and filled it with grief and pain, but at least my suffering had purpose. If my stories could somehow leave a positive impact on my readers' lives, I believed I had ultimately done more good than bad. I slowly convinced myself that the damage I caused was just another necessary evil. It was the only way to mask my guilt, the only way to find a way out of this mist of misery. But things changed one fateful day. They evolved from horrible to nightmarish and left no more room for justifications. A few weeks ago, I hovered over my computer as my mind gave life to 1,000 different worlds. The possibilities were endless, and everything was easy when reality seemed far away. The high-pitched shrill of my doorbell inevitably brought me back to Earth. I was suddenly teleported to a place I knew I didn't belong in. While begrudgingly getting up, I made a list of possible visitors in my head. Since the incident, nobody stopped by anymore. Why would they? I'm just a dirty homewrecker after all. Walking through the hallway, I came to the conclusion that somebody probably ended up at the wrong house. Upon opening the door, I almost instinctively told them off. Instead, my heart nearly skipped a beat as flashing memories reminded me of the gravity of my actions. A short man in his 40s stared back at me. Life and time seemingly took their toll on him. Deep, dark rings hung under his eyes, and furrows covered his forehead like vast, damning fissures. His white tank top was full of stains, and just a little too short for his beer belly. Lee always thought that Claire, the woman I supposedly stole from him, was way out of his league. I cautiously took a few steps back, hoping that he hadn't yet noticed the dripping sweat on my forehead. "Hey Norman, how are you?" I subconsciously put my hands in the air as if a gun's barrel was directly pointed at my face. "I know you won't believe me, but I never touched your wife. This is all some big misunderstanding." It was only then that his cold and dead eyes crossed my mind. It felt like he was encased in an armor of terror, while he firmly walked towards me. This wasn't the man I secretly made fun of in the past. He possessed the determination and calmness of a trained killer. My pupils twitched from left to right as my body commanded me to run as fast as I possibly could. It recognized that a threat far too big for me stood in my entrance. The glistening silver knife in his hand finally awoke me from my paralysis. As I stumbled backward and rushed into the kitchen, a million neurons were simultaneously firing through my skull, frantically trying to find some way out of this hell. Norman followed me without ever having to catch his breath. There was something inhuman about his movement. He dodged the trash bags and beer bottles I threw at him with an unbelievable degree of athleticism and proficiency. I ran as fast as I possibly could. My heart felt like it was about to collapse as my body reached its humble limits. He effortlessly leaped over the furniture and was only inches away from grasping me. I was a sick, old gazelle that was about to be mauled to death by a rabid cheetah. In a last-ditch effort to save my life, I took a sharp right turn and locked the door behind me. Mere milliseconds after that, a deafening thump rattled through the bathroom as Norman crashed into the wooden barrier that stood between me and certain death. I tried to catch my breath during these few seconds of peace. The image in the mirror had aged about 100 years. My eyes were widened in fear, and my face was stuck in a permanent, distorted grimace. Every time this monster flung himself at the door, the room was shaking. All I could do was cower in fear and count my remaining seconds on this earth. This man couldn't be reasoned with. He was an efficient machine only built to seek my suffering. Every one of his attempts sounded like a thunderbolt ruptured directly next to my fragile frame. After the fifth or so bang, the entrance shattered into 1,000 different pieces. As he got up, a trail of blood remained on the floor. A splinter got stuck in his eye, and a stripe of pure red covered his double chin. He couldn't care less. The only thing he seemed to wish for was my demise. The chase couldn't have lasted longer than a few minutes before he mercilessly tackled me to the ground. There was no hate or anger in his eyes, only a robotic nothingness. My body trembled as I planned to beg for mercy. No sound except for a raspy whisper escaped my lungs. I was maybe at the weakest point of my life, completely defeated and broken down, yet Norman remained completely silent. He looked almost bored as he picked up his weapon. The image of my distorted and pale white face in the reflection of his kitchen knife is forever burned inside my head. When I woke up, the all-encompassing peace made me believe for just a few moments that I landed in heaven. It took only mere seconds until I was proven otherwise. While inspecting my body, I quickly realized that my left hand got replaced by an unbearable, nonsensical void. Something inside of me desperately wanted to scream, desperately longed for everything to simply stop. But apparently, there was no amount of fear left in me. It felt like I was trapped in a dream. I felt no pain and no discomfort. Despite inspecting my wound from 100 different angles, the stump on my arm remained almost nothing more than a hallucination to me. I don't know how much time I spent staring at this newfound nothingness before a certain realization unexpectedly awoke me from my trance. The familiar feeling of horrific certainty overcame me as I bolted out of the hospital bed to find my laptop. As I carefully typed in the link, I anxiously begged to be proven wrong. Please, make this all just be the result of an angry husband. Don't make me lose faith in everything I once believed in. As I read the last message, my soul fractured into a million pieces and swirled through my body like vicious hurricanes. Ludwig van Beethoven created his Ninth Symphony. While almost completely deaf, John Milton created Paradise Lost after entirely losing his eyesight. The second step to making great art is destruction. The second prerequisite for great art is tragedy. After a few days, I quickly got discharged. Apparently, someone called the ambulance before I lost critical amounts of blood. I still don't understand how this AI managed to control Norman. If it had the ability to manipulate photos, videos, and even people, it appeared to me as if nothing would be able to stop it. Losing my hand changed my life in ways I could have never previously imagined. Tasks that once seemed easy and mundane became horrific obstacles. It felt like I wasn't a complete human being anymore. I couldn't cook, get dressed, or even tie my shoelaces. Every stranger's dreadful glance reminded me of my weakness. People from now on solely saw me as something to be pitied. During those moments, I was somehow glad that everybody abandoned me. Even I didn't deserve for my loved ones to see me in this state. A deranged lunatic that lost everything in pursuit of meaningful art. What perhaps hurt even more was the fact that I once again proved the AI right, as I knew that every day could potentially be my last. I worked tirelessly on my supposed magnum opus. Fear and terror elevated my writing to new dimensions. An infinite river of doom flowed directly onto my paper. Every nervous glance, every paranoid peek, every sleepless night further exacerbated my genius. Words effortlessly left my wounded soul, and page after page got filled in the matter of hours. The website demonstrated to me that I was only at my best when I was at my worst. Maybe it was right all along. Maybe the artist's path is forever covered in sacrifice. For weeks, I clung on to life this way. I put everything into my work, while my body gradually broke apart. I still childishly believed that things would soon magically turn around. As the publishing date of my novel inched closer and closer, I was convinced that the chatbot would stop haunting me after that. I knew that I created something truly meaningful. As soon as I set my work free, that was it. My request would have been fulfilled. It was merely a few hours ago when the entirety of my remaining hopes scattered into the winds. This morning, the sound of my laptop instantly awoke me. I instinctively felt like vomiting. As old recollections lay like corpses in front of my mental eye, I approached the device as one would an active balm. My rapid heartbeat echoed in my ears, while the website's interface greeted me once more. 1,000 nightmares have prepared me for this moment, but not even my darkest fantasies captured the dread that overcame me as soon as my eyes met the screen. Franz Kafka's works went entirely unrecognized until the 1950s. Emily Dickinson passed away without ever knowing of her success. You have created literature worthy of being remembered. Now the last thing missing is your demise. The last prerequisite for great art is death. It seems like I can only hope for a painless farewell. The knowledge of my timely end makes all that I accomplished turn into meaningless dust. I just wish to live the life I once had. I wish for my loving wife's embrace. I wish to get my body back, and I wish I didn't have to die. Please help. Is there really no way out? Am I destined to lose everything for mere pieces of paper?